Hello again, everyone. In this technical analysis of the stock market video, I call it tech versus the 10-year because the 10-year seems like it's been having a pretty big effect on the high growth stocks, and we're going to take a look at that and do a little comparison. So we're going to focus on the Nasdaq 100 today, take a look at the Elliott Wave picture for that, take a look at the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, the SOX, and see how it looks, and then check in on the McClellan Oscillator, and I want to take a look at oil today. All right, so let's start off here with the Nasdaq 100. It was up just a little bit on Friday, up 0.40. We've had a nice rally in that, and for the week it was up $4.90, and you can see it pushed above this weekly high over here. I'm telling you, the thing I'm a little bit wary of is that we got this all-time high over here on the week of February 14th. And now not this last week, but the previous week, the week of April 4th, we didn't come up and take out that high, but this last week we did, and we closed above it. So here we are closing above this high. If we don't continue to push, I'm a little suspicious that this could set up into a perfect little bull trap, and this starts to sell off. Now, let me just show you and tell you what I'm expecting when I look at the Elliott Wave picture. Let's pull this up. So right now, here's the wave count I've got on this. I think we're in a fifth primary wave, and we're looking to identify the 5 waves in here. I think we're in the 5th intermediate wave within that 5-wave structure. Okay, now, this is what I've got labeled. Now, I know you're going to look at this, and some of you that closely look at the wave structure. This comes down, and does it overlap? Wave 1, it overlaps by 1/100th of a point, literally. The low here is 297.45. The high here is 297.46. I am not going to worry about 1/100th of a point overlap. Now, here's the alternate count. So with this count, as a preferred count, here's what I think could be going on. We could push a little bit higher in a wave 3, but I think there's a decent chance that this may have completed at the high on Friday, which would imply a 4th wave pullback, which shouldn't be as sharp as this wave 2. It should be more of a choppy sideways. Now, the alternate is that in reality, here's the alternate count right here. Okay, the alternate count is that this is an A, B, and that we pull a C, and then we have the 4th wave complete, and then we take off in the 5th wave. That's the alternate count. So I'm watching to see, what do we get? Do we start to come down, and do we come down in 5 waves? So that's going to be a really, really interesting picture there. And it's interesting that the semiconductor index, when we take a look at the SOX, it is the same thing, and I'm going to pull that up. Well, I say it's the same thing. It's a similar thing, okay? So again, we're looking to be in a 5th primary wave up, and we're coming from, we're looking at this coming off that low, that March 2020 low, okay? A huge, big, strong wave 1, a wave 2 pullback, fairly shallow. Then we've had this nice 5-wave move in here for wave 3, and now we got this 4th wave. So there's a couple of things that make me think that this is what could be, the alternate could be what's happening, because this type of pullback mirrors this pullback over here to a certain degree. I prefer to see an alternate type picture, so we'll see what happens. This is a little bit different here in terms of what's going on in here. This looks like almost like we don't have 5 waves complete, that's why I have the wave 3 up here, which could mean that we push a little bit higher in here to complete wave 3, and then we do wave 4 and then 5, or wave B, either finished here, or is about to finish in here with an A, B, C. So this, again, is an alternate count, very similar to what I just talked about with the Nasdaq 100. All right, let's talk about the 10-year yield. I'm going to compare something, pull this up. I know I talked about it last week. Let me go back over to this scenario, this view anyway, and let's take a look at the 10-year yield. So what I've got here is this is the moving average with my indicators, that type of thing, more of the traditional technical analysis view. And it's really interesting. So I've got this zone identified for resistance, okay? And I think I talked about this last week. If I didn't, here's where that is coming from. The middle of all this congestion, I identified this zone. So when we come up in here with the 10-year yield, it is up, it got up right up into this zone, and now we seem to have broken down out of it. It's going to be interesting. Is it just a little temporary pullback, or is it something more serious? Now, the other thing I wanted to point out is look over here in mid-February. Okay, so here, right here is, this is February 16th. Look how we're blasting off out of this, kind of breaking out of this resistance area here, mid-February, and then we rally up here strongly into March 18th. And then we're chopping sideways. Let's go back and take a look at the Qs. Okay, where's mid-February? Here's the high right here, February 16th. So when the interest rates 10-year yield breaks out and runs and pushes into new highs, the Nasdaq 100 was collapsing in a pretty strong sell-off that happened. Now, the intraday low occurred on March 5th. The actual closing low occurred on March 8th. And then it rallied a little bit and chopped around. So let's go back and take a look. So what do we have back up in here? Where's this closing high? Right here. Let me zoom in. Closing high right here is on March 31st. Okay. So then we sell off with the 10-year yield. Okay. So if we go back to the Qs, here's March 31st. So as the 10-year yield is selling off, the Qs rally hard. Okay, so here's where the 10-year yield was bouncing around up there in that resistance zone, and this is exactly what was happening with the Qs. It was chopping around, trying to decide where are we going to go, what's happening with the 10-year yield. And so now the 10-year yield has pulled back, and so it's going to be really, really interesting to see. Now, I pulled on TLT, sorry. So, which goes in the opposite direction of this. Is it going to get its legs underneath it and turn and come back up in here? Or is it going to sell off more severely? That's why it's going to be really interesting to keep an eye on this. Now, we have gotten a little bit oversold down here, but we could bounce around a little bit also. So, just something to keep in mind. Keep an eye on this. I think it's definitely going to have at least short-term correlation with what's going on with both the Nasdaq 100 and with the Semiconductor Index. Now, of course, we've got a lot of earnings coming up in here also. All right, let's take a look at the McClellan Oscillator. Okay, the interesting thing about the McClellan Oscillator is as the stock market has continued to push higher, think of the S&P 500, and let me just pull that up. Let me pull up the SPX. Think about what the SPX has been doing and trending significantly higher. And we go back and what happened to it? And there it is. It was hiding from me. Okay, so this has not confirmed the move, okay, of the indices to the higher, the Dow, the S&P 500. And so it's going to be really interesting right now. I think we're at that critical point. Either this is going to fail, the market's going to break above this trend line and push higher, or it's going to collapse down with a heavy bout of selling and collapse below the zero level. So on the McClellan Oscillator, this is the zero line. When you get above a plus 150, you are severely overbought. When you get below minus 150, you're severely oversold. Similar type setup occurred last February and March 2020. And it's, again, we had these three peaks, then a little counter peak, and then collapse. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here over the next week or so. All right, now I want to take a look at oil. Okay, West Texas Intermediate futures, near-term futures, closed $63.07. This is what USL is doing, and I think USL has finished its corrective pattern in here, wave 4. I was really confused as to what might be happening going on, But as I drilled down and looked at the intraday data, it became clear to me that we had a corrective wave pattern here, a W, a flat, an X wave, and then a small triangle that became clear in terms of WXY. And I believe that we have now broken out and have started the fifth minor wave higher. Let's just take a look at the weekly chart so you can see a little bit better. I do have an alternate count, but it really hasn't come into play yet. The alternate is that this is a corrective WX, of an X wave, and that we're still doing more corrective action. But right now, this acts like it wants to continue pushing higher. I am going with that. We're outside of this channel here, and so I'm looking for this fifth wave to push up into 5 waves. Now, the thing about commodities is many times the fifth wave has a tendency to be the strongest wave of the 3 motive waves, 1, 3, and 5. So we'll see what happens. But that's the picture, watching to see. Looks like oil wants to continue to strengthen, at least short term. All right, that's the picture for this weekend. If you felt like the video was helpful, give it the thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber yet, hit that little subscriber button. If you like more of this kind of information on a daily basis, head on over to joehenches.net and check out the website and the membership. Everyone have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on the next video.